Welcome to Days of Roar, a Detroit Tigers podcast brought to you by the Detroit Free Press. My name is Mark Gorash. I am here with Free Press beat writer, very tan-looking Evan Petzold. While the Tigers are reeling off win after win, last night that came to an end. But Ev, pretty fun week again, pretty good baseball, things we definitely enjoy a lot more than what we saw a few months ago. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's incredible. Another great week for the Tigers at 5-3. They went 1-0 against the Chicago White Sox at Guaranteed Rate Field, 2-1 against the Los Angeles Angels at Comerica Park, 2-1 against the Boston Red Sox at Comerica Park, and then 0-1 against the San Diego Padres at Petco Park. That game against the White Sox was that random Monday game that they played after the weekend series. And then the Tigers playing their one game against the Padres with the off day on Tuesday, and then games 2 and 3 on Wednesday and Thursday before starting a 3-game series against the Athletics in Oakland over the weekend. So the Tigers still have 2 more games against the Padres to play in that series. And then the Tigers always seem to have trouble playing the Athletics in Oakland, so I think that'll be a really big test for them as well. But so far, so good. These guys keep winning. It's very, very impressive. I thought Sunday's win was a really big win, beating the Boston Red Sox. The Tigers and the Red Sox are 2 teams that are vying for that last spot in the American League wild card, and it's going to have to take a lot of things going right for both of those teams for them to get in. It's going to have to take a lot going wrong for a team like the Kansas City Royals or the Minnesota Twins, if the Tigers or the Red Sox really want to get in. But I thought Sunday's win was huge for the Tigers. It was a 4-1 win. Home runs from Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green, just like it was always supposed to be back when Al Avila, the former general manager, picked those guys. Tork and Green leading the way. Only 3 hits in that game, only 5 base runners in the first 5 innings. 4 of those base runners scored. Not many opportunities, but the Tigers did take advantage. It was a big win for them just to separate and continue to stack winning days in winning series. A 2-1 record against the Red Sox in that series feels a lot different than 1-2. And it means a lot for the standings going down the stretch, as those are 2 teams that are just trying to get in and grab that last wild card spot. So I thought Sunday's win was huge. And then, what they've been doing has been incredible. They've won 15 of 21 games since August 11th. That's a .714 winning percentage, 714 winning percentage. That's 116 wins across a 162 game season for a 116-46 record. If you would stretch the way that they're playing right now across a full season, that's basically the 1906 Chicago Cubs and the 2001 Seattle Mariners. That's how the Tigers are playing right now. And they put themselves in a position to at least talk about the playoffs. I mean, if you look at the American League Central standings and where we're at, you have the Cleveland Guardians at 79-59, the Minnesota Twins at 75-62, the Kansas City Royals at 75-64, and then the Detroit Tigers at 70-69. The Tigers are 9.5 games back behind the Guardians for first place in the AL Central, and they're 5 games behind the Royals for the final spot in the AL wild card. As for the wild card hunt, like I said, the Red Sox and the Mariners also in the hunt, both right around where the Tigers are at. So the Tigers 5 games behind the Royals for the final spot in the AL wild card. Crazier things that happened, but the way the Tigers have been playing since mid-August has given them this opportunity to make a push down the stretch. It's going to take a lot, but it's been a lot of fun baseball, and it's exciting, and it's a reason to watch the Tigers right now.
2 things for me. One, I thought the Boston series was a good measuring stick. Team very similar to the Tigers. Team used to play good teams every day. A team that's scrappy as hell. And they beat them 2 out of 3 and got beat the first night. So you had to show a little something. There was a little some on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday night, one of the most fun, enjoyable nights of the season. The 84 reunion game. Tarik Skubal just absolutely shoving 7 innings after an opening run in the first. Holy smokes. Just wheel the Cy Young Award into the locker room and hand it to him now. Okay. And as far as the last 20 games, love it. What I really like is the last 51 games, which is 29-22, I think. That really shows me something. It's much harder to play 51 games with a solid record. you get ups and downs. You get guys having good months, bad months. Your best players don't pull you for a while, and you have to find secondary help and other ways to win. You go through injuries, you go through slumps, and you got to keep playing well every night. Yeah, you can have an off night, but then you got to come back from it. So it's very similar to what I said earlier. Got beat Friday night by Boston, came back and won Saturday and Sunday against a good team that's happy to take your lunch money. So those are all very good signs. And now the hardest part of legitimacy starts now. It had to be really difficult to play last night. You flew across the country to play a game the day after you played Sunday afternoon. Anybody that's flown across the country knows you don't feel too good after you fly from Detroit to San Diego. The first day is just kind of shaking out the cobwebs. They had to go play a baseball game in a full stadium against one of the best teams.
Just to clarify on that, Mark, by the way, so you know, and so our listeners know too, this was supposed to be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday series. The Padres, they wanted to play on the holiday. So before the season started, they reached out to the Tigers and they said, hey, you want to play on Monday instead? Have the off day on Tuesday, and then finish up the series on Wednesday and Thursday. The Tigers agreed to it because they wanted the Tuesday off day in San Diego. So keep that in mind as you maybe critique. People out there are critiquing the schedule and saying, oh, why was that the case? Well, the Tigers agreed to it. The Tigers agreed to play Monday. They agreed to fly Sunday night and play an afternoon game on Monday in San Diego. That was something that the Tigers said that they would be willing to do when the Padres reached out to them. They could have said no, and this could have been a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday series. But instead, the Tigers had to go out there and play Monday, followed by the off day Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday to wrap things up.
Got to admit, it's weirdly beneficial to have the off day today for them. I mean, they should be much more ready to play Wednesday. So let's see what happens. All right, let's get into the stuff we always love to get into. Question one of the big two. Is the wild card race for real? And what do the Tigers have to do to get there?
Mark, I think it's for real. I think the wild card race is real. The Tigers, according to Fangraphs, have a 7.1% chance to make the postseason. There are 23 games remaining. Remember, the odds were 0.2% when the 15 wins in 21 games began back on August 11th. The Yankees, Orioles, Guardians, and Astros are all pretty much locked in. We need two more teams. The teams in that mix, the Twins, the Royals, the Red Sox, the Tigers, and the Mariners. Here are the odds for those teams in the mix. The Twins at 96%, the Royals at 78.1%, the Red Sox at 13.6%, the Tigers at 7.1%, like I mentioned, and then the Mariners at 6.2%. So the Tigers need to hope for a Twins or Royals collapse, and they have to be better than the Red Sox and the Mariners in order to get in. A lot of things have to go right, but that's why the postseason race, the wild card race, that's why it's real, because scenarios could happen where the Tigers get in. It's possible. The Royals and the Twins, they've occupied the final 2 of 3 AL wildcard spots for most of the past week. Both teams are trying to hold on as the Red Sox, Tigers, and Mariners try to catch up. The Royals have lost 6 games in a row. They have 3 consistently dependable hitters in their lineup: Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, and Vinny Pasquantino. Those 3 players are pretty much like half of their offensive production. Like, they are half the offensive production in Kansas City. Vinny Pasquantino broke his thumb, and he's going to miss the rest of the regular season as well as a good chunk of October if the Royals hang on. They've lost 4 games in a row since the Pasquantino injury, scoring no more than 2 runs in a game in his absence. The rotation, I think, is too good for the Royals to keep sliding, but the offense is not the same without Vinny Pasquantino. After all, it's a top-heavy lineup. He's had a 957 OPS with runners in scoring position. The Royals have picked up Tommy Pham, Robbie Grossman, Yuli Gurriel, just trying to make up for his absence and trying to make up for his production in his absence. But let's be honest, like, the combination of those guys will not produce like Pasquantino. So there are some concerns there with the offense, considering how top-heavy it is. If the Royals are going to slide, it's going to be because of their offense not being able to produce. Again, they have the 3 heavy hitters, but one of those guys is down. As for the Twins, roster depth has been key in keeping them afloat, but still, they're 9-10 since August 13th. They played without Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton in the lineup. There have been some inconsistencies at the plate for Royce Lewis, but he's going to be more than fine. He's a superstar when he's on the field, and right now, he's on the field. Those are the big 3 in the Twins lineup: Correa, Buxton, Lewis, but someone's always injured from that group, and right now, Two of those players are injured. Byron Buxton's coming back soon from a hip injury. He just started a rehab assignment. It's going to be a quick one. Carlos Correa, nobody knows yet. He hasn't played since July 12th. Plantar fasciitis in his right foot. It's a matter of when, not if, for him. I bet he comes back for the stretch run if he's needed. If he's not needed, then maybe he rests up for October. But you got to tip your cap to the Twins. Brooks Lee, Jose Miranda, Matt Wallner, Carlos Santana, Trevor Larnach, ex-Tiger, and 2024 All-Star Willie Castro, Ryan Jeffers. A lot of dudes have stepped up even without the stars healthy. And when the stars are healthy, the Twins can beat anyone because of their offense. My concern with them is the pitching staff. You got Bailey Ober, you got Pablo Lopez. They've been dominant. But if there's one flaw, it is the pitching staff. If the Twins fall, I think that's going to be the reason. It's something to monitor over the next couple of weeks as we watch this wild card race unfold. Can the Twins deliver with the back end of the rotation and with their bullpen? I'm not so certain. And can the Royals survive the loss of Vinny Pasquantino? The Tigers need to hope for the Twins or the Royals to collapse. I think maybe the Twins are more likely to fall than the Royals, even though the Royals have a tougher schedule and worse odds to make the playoffs moving forward. I just like what the Royals have put together. I think the rotation is too good. But Mark, more than anything in all this, the Tigers need to keep winning. You got 2 more games against the Padres in San Diego, 3 games against the A's in Oakland, 6 games against the Orioles, 3 at home, 3 on the road, 3 games against Kansas City. You're playing the Royals in KC. That's where they've been really hot all season long. They're a great team at home. That's going to be a really difficult 3-game series. 3 games against the Rays in Detroit. You have the easy games with the Rockies and the White Sox, but one losing streak of more than 3 games, I think it pretty much ends the season. Like if the Tigers get swept by the Padres and then lose 2 of 3 to the A's for a 1-5 week this week, then it's pretty much over. But until then, it's on. It's on. The wild card race is on, Mark.
Well, the one thing we do well on Days of Roar is we're both good at math. So I like to simplify things even more than you do sometimes. Tigers need to win 16 games from here on out to have a reasonably serious opportunity to be in the wild card. Period. End of story. You got to figure out how to get to 86 wins. Don't care when you do it. Don't care how you do it. You can win the last 12 in a row. You can continue to play well. I don't care how you get there. You got to get there. Period. End of story.
Do you think they will?
I would say they have a 7% chance of doing it, which means if they played this 50 times, 3.5 times, they would get there. So that's all I got to say about that. I think that's a pretty fair way of looking at it. As far as KC, I call the Kansas City Royals the Kansas City Bobbies because Kansas City is going to only get there if Bobby Witt takes them there. And yes, Pasquantino is a huge loss for them. He was a scary, was like a giant coming out of the jungle to take your town. He did some damage every time we played him. So it's a big loss for them, but Bobby Witt needs to do Bobby Witt things. And I got a feeling the league isn't going to throw Bobby Witt too many strikes for the month of September now that Vinny Pasquantino is not there. So, and Minnesota, have always been on the side of the Twins as the best team in the division, have continually found a way to do things. And if you've ever had plantar fasciitis, it's like your foot's on fire 24/7. Literally. It's not fun. There's lots of ways to try and cure it. If it's really, really bad, most of those ways don't work and you end up getting surgery. But Carlos Correa somehow always finds a way to play well in September and then play great in the playoffs. If he does that, Minnesota Twins are very, very viable to do all kinds of crazy stuff because that's a really, really good baseball team. As far as
Mark, take the calendar really quick. Like, are you circling games here? I know you're about to talk about.
No, never circle games. I always keep saying the same thing. It's never who you play. It's how you play. You play well, you're going to win. Don't care who you're playing. Okay. Because you just have no idea how the team you're going to play is playing. And that's a huge factor. Are they injured? Are they tired? Are they struggling? Are they on a hot streak? Do you think when good teams started playing the Tigers in middle July and early August that they had penciled in wins and then got their ass beat? Yeah, because the Tigers were playing great. So, like I said, it's never who you play, it's how you play. So, and I'm going to keep saying that until I'm not doing this podcast anymore. All right, let's get to question 2, the big 2. Does how the Tigers finish in 2024 impact the offseason plan? And this will be a lot of fun to discuss. So I want to hear what you got to say about this, Av.
So for starters, it all depends on what president of baseball operations, Scott Harris, thinks about the product on the field, specifically the offense. When I look at the Tigers right now, I think, okay, they still need a third baseman, they need a first baseman, and they need a right-handed hitting outfielder. Those are the 3 things that I'm looking for. Now, we can talk about pitching all we want later, but I think it really starts with the offense for the Tigers because I believe that Scott Harris can put together a good pitching staff. He can go and find guys in the margins. He can go and find reclamation projects. He can develop from the minor leagues. Like the Tigers have proven that they can do this. So hang on there with the pitching staff for a moment. You need a third baseman, need a first baseman, and you need a right-handed hitting outfielder. Jace Young hitting .222 with a .594 OPS and a 31% strikeout rate since getting called up. You might also need a left-handed hitting shortstop too, by the way, if they're going to be a Javi Baez / somebody else platoon moving forward, because Trey Sweeney hitting .194 with a .550 OPS, still without a walk in 37 plate appearances since making his big league debut. The defense looked really, really good early. Hasn't looked as sharp lately. So maybe you need a left-handed hitting shortstop too, but let's focus on third base, first base, and then right-handed hitting outfielder. Spencer Torkelson hitting .308 with a .945 OPS since coming back from AAA Toledo. Only 54 plate appearances, but he's done some good things. He also has a .419 batting average on balls in play, which is way above league average. That tells me he's going to come back down to earth from a batting average standpoint. He's not going to hit 300. He's going to hit like 235 at the very best. Also, he has a 32% strikeout rate since coming back. I don't know if Spencer Torkelson is the answer at first base. And quite frankly, I don't think he's the answer at first base. And then the Tigers have so many left-handed hitting outfielders. Parker Meadows, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter. Yes, you have Wenceel Perez. You also have Matt Vierling. They swing from the right side, but they're role players. They're not big bats that you can rely on. Justin Henry Malloy, he flexes some pop against lefty pitchers. He is a right-handed hitter, but he can't play defense, and he strikes out way too much. So that's where I come to the conclusion of third baseman, first baseman, right-handed hitting outfielder. And this is where I think a good or a bad finish, a real playoff push, a real wildcard push, like if they're in the last week of the season and they are vying for a spot and the odds are 50-50 and they end up just not making it, do you have a different feeling when you consider, hey, Christian Walker or Carlos Santana or Spencer Torkelson at first base? I think the Tigers making a significant push could maybe lean them more towards the Christian Walker side of that conversation, as opposed to Carlos Santana or just running it back with Spencer Torkelson. Christian Walker and Carlos Santana both being impending free agents. Christian Walker, a much better player. Carlos Santana, also a solid player. Carlos Santana is a one-year deal type of guy. Christian Walker, you're probably looking at a 3 or a 4-year deal for him, even though he's a little bit older. I get it. But his production warrants a 3 or 4-year deal. He's healthy. He's productive. That would be a massive upgrade for the Tigers at first base. Carlos Santana would be an upgrade, but not a massive upgrade. He would be an upgrade. It'd also be a 1-year deal type upgrade. Or do you run it back with Spencer Torkelson? How about the outfield? Anthony Santander or Tyler O'Neill or another Mark Canha type player for the right-handed hitting outfielder. Anthony Santander, he's going to get paid. He's one of the most underrated players in baseball. You can go out and throw a bunch of money at Anthony Santander and he's going to rake. He is going to rake. Tyler O'Neill, also a very good player. Maybe a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, 3-year deal, somewhere in that range. Not a bad choice. Or third base, Alex Bregman, or a continued tryout for Jace Young, or do you explore the trade market? So I think how the Tigers finish could factor into a lot of those conversations. It really depends on if Scott Harris believes he has a core on offense. Because the Tigers have Tarik Skubal, Reese Olson, Jackson Jobe. They also have plenty of starters who can move into the bullpen. They can sign Walker Buehler as the next project for the starting rotation, like Michael Lorenzen and Jack Flaherty. I'm not worried about the pitching staff because Scott Harris is a pitching genius. But I'm not sure the Tigers have a core on offense. You have Riley Green, Colt Keith, Kerry Carpenter, Parker Meadows. He's probably in that mix somewhere. He's probably more of like a 600 to 650 OPS guy who plays elite defense. That's certainly part of the core, but no one's going to count on Parker Meadows to carry the offense. He's been red hot coming back from the injury, but I still think his ceiling is probably just average hitter with elite defense. Matt Vierling, great bench bat, great bench player. But still, you have 4 players in Keith, Green, Carpenter, and kind of Parker Meadows. Is that enough to put the foot on the gas Is that Christian Walker or Carlos Santana or Spencer Torkelson? Is that Alex Bregman or is that more Jace Young? Is that Anthony Santander, Tyler O'Neill, or another Mark Canna type player? Or do the Tigers want to wait until 2026 when Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal are going to show up, with Hao-Yu Lee probably coming at some point in 2025? I think if Scott Harris has a plan, which he hasn't publicly shared, I think Scott Harris is going to stick to his plan regardless of what happens to finish the season. But I do think some of those conversations, like a Christian Walker versus a Carlos Santana or Anthony Santander versus Tyler O'Neill, could be swayed by a strong finish or getting into the playoffs. I think that's where the scales might tip a little bit.
All right. So this is a fun question, and I think we crafted it because the question is, if the Tigers play well down the stretch, they win 14, 15, 16 more games this year, and they actually contend for a wild card spot, does this pressure Scott Harris, notorious conservative individual as far as building a team on a timeline, who's never felt even a minute ounce of urgency to be good so far in his first two seasons, does this impact what the fan base, what AJ Hinch, and what Chris Ilitch is willing to tolerate as far as being conservative or being aggressive in this offseason? There are some interesting players. And I continue to remind the fan base and everybody, there are more ways to acquire players than free agency. You are allowed to trade for players. And you know who's really good at trading for players? Really good teams. Really good teams. Even the Baltimore Orioles, who trade for no one, trade for Corbin Burns. Atlanta trades for players all the damn time. So do the Dodgers. Teams make trades. So, trying to encourage Scott Harris to actually take a risk is been my goal for 2 years. And, the best way I can say it about that is, look, there's different ways of being strategic. You can be strategic and you can be aggressively strategic. Scott Harris is for sure strategic. Is he aggressively strategic? Absolutely not. It's like auto racing. You have races where guys average 140 miles an hour and the top speed is 200. And you have races where guys average 165 miles an hour and the top speed is 230. Scott doesn't like to race in the big boy league. It's a little scary for him. He'll tell you that he's waiting until his plan comes together and they're getting closer and it makes sense to do things. And my answer is, you know what? It never doesn't make sense to do things and to get better. He needs to add to his core. He needs to add players that will be here longer than 4 months. He needs to go for it now. Because guess what? If you waste next year, then Tarik Skubal's going to be a free agent, and Riley Green is getting close to being a free agent, and that'll be the next level of excuses why they can't be good. So my attitude is, you got about $60 million based upon what the payroll is going to be in 2025. If the payroll is going to be 115 to 130 million, you got plenty of money to go do things. You can take on contracts. You can spend money on free agents, Willy Adames, and let's see if you can have an actual fun baseball team. You hit about 5 or 6 games in 2024 where the stadium was pretty full. It was a lot of fun. The team played well, and it was kind of like an event downtown. What if you could have 30 of those games next year instead of 5? And that's really what it's about, dude.
Mark, I'm right there with you when it comes to, you mentioned Tarik Skubal and Riley Green. Now, to be fair, Riley Green doesn't become a free agent until after the 2028 season, but Tarik Skubal becoming a free agent after the 2026 season, you don't want to waste 2025 on another let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what we have in Jace Young. let's wait and see what we have in Spencer Torkelson. Maybe there's more in there. Maybe he can get back to being a 30 homer type guy. No more time to go and wait and see what they have. Let's wait and see what maybe Justin Henry Malloy can become as a defensive outfielder. No, we know what Justin Henry Malloy is as a defensive outfielder. We also know what he is at the plate. Jace Young, sure, maybe there's a little bit of a wait and see vibe, but at the same time, you kind of have an idea of what he's going to be defensively, and he limits you defensively. And on offense, there's a lot of holes. He showed that in AAA Toledo. So enough with wait and see. I think it is time to put the foot on the gas a little bit more, but you don't want to rev the engine too much because remember what happened when Al Avila went out. He went and got Javier Baez and Eduardo Rodriguez, and let's not forget, Al Avila and AJ Hinch went on those around the globe tours to go find these guys and talk to them and, take their pick. And they went with Javi Baez and they went with Eduardo Rodriguez, and that plan backfired because that didn't turn out great. So sometimes putting the foot on the gas too hard, too early isn't the best thing to do. But I do think that there needs to be a level of aggressiveness that allows the Tigers to have a chance. I think this year is a perfect example of anybody can get into the playoffs. Look at the Tigers. They're in a wild card race and it's the beginning of September. No one expected this to happen, but here they are. Here they are. They have an opportunity. Could you imagine if they would have had a JD Martinez or a Matt Chapman at this point? This would be a playoff team right now. This would be a playoff team. So in the state of baseball, where it's at with the expanded playoffs, I think there's no reason not to put the foot on the gas a little bit more. It doesn't mean you have to put pedal to the metal. You're not going to go out and get Juan Soto or Pete Alonso. Like, that's not happening. Okay? It's not happening. And that's why I brought up the Christian Walker or Carlos Santana. That's why I know I'm teasing the idea of Alex Bregman, but that might even be too costly and that might be too much. And that could backfire. I like it, but it could backfire. I just think that it's worth talking about some of these things because it's not going out and getting Juan Soto and Pete Alonso and Alex Bregman and boom, that solves all your problems. Like, that's not happening. But can we put our foot on the gas a little bit more? I think so. And I think that's more than enough to get the Tigers into the playoffs. And once you're in a 1-2-3 of Tarik Skubal, Reese Olson, Jackson Jobe, it's pretty nasty. Like, Tarik Skubal going 1, Jackson Jobe going 2, Reese Olson going 3 in a wild card series or in the first round of the playoffs. Like, that's going to win you. That's going to give you a chance to win. That's going to give you a chance to advance. And once you advance, like, anything can happen. Look at what the Arizona Diamondbacks did last season. So that's why I think there does need to be more aggression. That's why I do think that a strong finish could force the Tigers' hand in that way. And I hope that's part of their plan. I hope that's part of Scott Harris. I hope that's what Scott Harris wants to do. I really do. And I don't know what his plan is because he doesn't talk about his plan, but I hope that's part of it because the Tigers do have some pieces. They have some players. They have the best pitcher in baseball. One of the best pitchers in the past 30, 40 years. He's one of the best pitchers in a long time. He's having one of the best seasons, Tarik Skubal. You got Jackson Jobe coming. There's no reason not to make some aggressive moves to make this team significantly better going into 2025.
Hey, look, we're going to talk a lot about the offseason here starting in a month, but all I got to say to you is for everybody that's jumping the Spencer Torkelson train, look, I'm really happy for the guy. It had to be just a miserable first 10 weeks to the season, but it's not the first time. And after last year and looking at the 3-year track record of Spencer Torkelson, defensively, same as it ever was. Offensively, yeah, we saw a little bit of what 2023 was. We've seen some expansion of a skill set, hits the ball a little bit to right center field. But if you go into 2025, depending on Spencer Torkelson as your first baseman with no backup plan, it just tells me that you're not serious about winning because what happened this year was they had no reason to even plan for a backup plan, and they got left at the altar. He was, unplayable. So you can't allow that now after 3 years to be the case. Trey Sweeney, Jace Young, happy they're getting a shot. Any human being that thinks that's the left side of the Tiger infield in 2025, you got to stop drinking. It's day drinking to think that's what's going to be happening next year. Get the heck out of here. Jace Young, I like his command of the strike zone. In the meantime, he's hit one ball to the wall. He has one extra base hit. And, let's kindly say he does not have the arm to play third base. Trey Sweeney catches and throws out everybody that, has hit the ball to him, except for the guy 2 days ago that he allowed to be safe at first base because he waited about a half an hour to allow the ball to get to him, which in the major leagues is a cardinal sin. But come on, he hasn't walked one single time, and that's just a prescription for disaster hitting in the major leagues. Does he put the bat on the ball and hit the ball hard? Yeah. He's a backup. He's not a regular shortstop. That's a prescription for disaster. So you want to get better? Third base, first base, got to do something with those two spots. The Tigers rank 27th in first base OPS, one of the easiest offensive locations to get offensive production from in baseball. 30th at shortstop. Got to change it. Got to do something with it. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to be back in 60. All right, we're back. All right, Ev, let's do something fun. Let's talk about the performance of the pitching staff since the 1st of August, how they did it, how they applied strategy to it, and, give us some of the numbers and some of the ways they crafted this strategy to try to overcome the fact that they basically had two starters.
Yeah, only two traditional starters in Tarik Skubal and Keider Montero for pretty much the entire month of August, while the team had a 17-11 record in 28 games in August. So it was a winning month for the Tigers, only doing it with two traditional starters. They did it because they had bulk relievers in Kenta Maeda, Brant Herter, and Brian Sammons. Brian Sammons has since been optioned to AAA Toledo, but now Ty Madden is kind of filling that role. So you have Kenta Maeda, Brant Herter, and Ty Madden right now being used as bulk relievers, while the Tigers have traditional starters in Tarik Skubal and Keider Montero, as well as Casey Mize, who just recently returned from the injured list. So it's been a mix of traditional starters and bulk relievers. Kenta Maeda is a starter. Brant Herter is a starter. Brian Sammons is a starter. Ty Madden is a starter. Like, they are all starters. They had been in AAA Toledo. Kenta Maeda, obviously, throughout his entire career, has been a starter. But the Tigers, using a strategy built by Scott Harris and AJ Hinch to go with openers. And they're using Bo Brisky and Tyler Holton, guys like that, as openers, and then handing things over to Kenta Maeda, Brant Herter, Brian Sammons, and Ty Madden, giving them optimal runway into their starts. Brant Herter is a left-handed pitcher. Perfect example. The Tigers would not want Brant Herter starting a game and allowing the other team to stack their lineup with right-handed hitters. Brant Herter struggles against right-handed hitters. But by using an opener, the Tigers then can choose when they want Brant Herter to enter the game and eat up his 4, 5, 6 innings, and they could bring him in against a 2 of 3 stretch of left-handed hitters because Brant Herter thrives against left-handed hitters. So it's a strategy that Scott Harris and AJ Hinch have come up with to combat the fact that they only have two starting pitchers in Skubal and Montero in August. Now Casey Mize has joined the fold, but there still is some bulk reliever happening, and it's worked for the Tigers. They're second in ERA, third in FIP, third in opponent batting average, 18th in strikeout rate, 8th in walk rate, third in whip, second in barrel rate in August. Those were the marks in the month of August. Second in ERA, third in FIP, third in opponent batting average, third in whip. They're not allowing teams to get the barrel of the bat on the ball. It's been incredible. I think we got to go to AJ Hinch, though, because he talked about this, and it was really impressive. We got to dig into that because he's the mastermind behind all this with Scott Harris, and he had a great explanation for exactly what the Tigers are doing and why it worked.
There's value in winning. Like, to me, the winning is gonna supersede any notion of what it feels like to start the game versus pitch innings 3 through 8 or 9. Like, the winning is really what we're about here, and of course we'd like to do both. I mean, if that's what it takes. But I like that they can't stack the lineup against Herter. When we played against the Cubs, like, they had 3 or 4 left-handed hitters in the lineup. Once I announce that he starts, see how many left-handed hitters are in the lineup. So part of our job is to put guys in a position to be successful and pitch them when they can get the most outs. It's not going to be forever, but it's been effective, and it's why we continue to stick with it in the matchups in which we've had the last couple of weeks.
And then AJ Hinch was asked about Dylan Dingler, a young catcher. How does he manage all these bullpen games? That's what he was asked. AJ Hinch was asked about the bullpen games. Here's what he said to that.
Well, it's not a bullpen game whenever somebody is taken down 5 or 6 innings in that bullpen, right? It's just when, basically when you bring in Herter or Maeda or Sammons, who are the 3 guys that have pitched the bulk of these innings coming out of the pen, I get to choose who the leadoff hitter is, not the other manager. So when I bring him in, Dylan or Raj knows, probably in there for a while, at least 2 times through, maybe a 3rd time, depending on where I can set the leadoff hitter. That in itself is not any more taxing than is if the guy starts. I think what's more taxing is let somebody stack a lineup against a pitcher, and you have to work your way through that lineup multiple times. So, for Dylan in particular, it's been probably good for him that Sammons is here, that Herter is here. The guys that he caught routinely in AAA. That's helped his transition to the big leagues as much as anything.
That's manager AJ Hinch talking about the openers and the bulk relievers. Mark, what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, first of all, you want to criticize Dylan Dingler for going 3 for 34, and I see something totally different. I see the fact that the last 6 games he's caught, all wins. I see that I haven't thought about Carson Kelly for 1 minute since Dylan Dingler's been here. His throwing is terrific. His game calling is great. And they're winning when he catches. Am I worried if he's going to hit or not? Heck no. And guess what? Every single time Dylan Dingler has been promoted a level in the minor leagues, it took him a while to start hitting. And eventually, he started hitting. So for those of you that are worried that he's 3 for 34, last thing on my mind. But let's get into the pitching stuff. For 2 years, I've done nothing but sort of bash the courage of Scott Harris. And guess what? Somebody star this podcast, because today on this podcast, on the 2nd of September, I am going to throw the bouquet of roses to Scott Harris. Because you know why? Here's why. Scott Harris is a great data analyst. It's what he did for the first 5 years he was with the Cubs. It's how he got on the map with Theo Epstein. Scott Harris understands how to be a quant. And what he did was, when they were confronted with this particular issue of no starting pitching depth, he had a meeting with AJ Hinch. He had a lunch meeting, and they discussed it on Tigers Live the other day. And what transpired out of that meeting was using an opener, trying to optimize the hitters that Sammons and Madden and Herter would face, okay, and try to make the lineup be to their advantage. They understood their strengths. They understood their shortcomings. And at the same time, got to throw a bouquet to all those guys, because at least they've done what was expected of them so you could execute the strategy. Kenta Maeda also. The less Kenta Maeda, the better. Okay. But what you've got is Brand Herter, who couldn't get a right-hand hitter out if it was a stacked lineup of right-hand hitters. No chance. Where he struggled in the first inning in Toledo, he never throws the first inning. And when he finally threw the first inning the other day, it wasn't great. Okay. So what they've done is they've turned it over to the puppet master, understanding exactly when to insert these 3 or 4 minor league arms, how to insert them, rarely see the lineup a 3rd time, and it's been poetic. They have optimized every one of them and ended up with one of their best pitching months of the AJ Hinch tenure of 4 years. But that was Scott Harris's idea. He took that to AJ. They then strategically decided how to deploy these guys, and they've done a masterful job of making the best out of a terrible situation. It's not something any other team in baseball could have done that simply. So to Scott Harris, great job.
I agree completely. And a perfect example of what AJ Hinch is talking about and what Scott Harris had planned out, like Go look at what happened Sunday against the Boston Red Sox, Monday against the San Diego Padres. The Tigers had 2 pitchers available to handle the bulk of the innings, either as starters or as relievers, in Brant Hurter and Ty Madden. Brant Hurter, a left-hander, and Ty Madden, a right-hander. The Tigers opted to use both of them as relievers, but they got the bulk of the innings. So basically starters out of the bullpen to take advantage of the matchups. The Tigers, of course, did not reveal which pitcher would be coming out of the bullpen for Sunday's game against the Red Sox. Madden was initially scheduled as the starter for Sunday's game against the Red Sox. By the time the series started, the Tigers switched their probable pitcher to be announced, TBA. The Tigers used Hurter, not Madden, against the Red Sox, then Madden against the Padres. Here's why. In July and August, the Red Sox, they ranked 26th in MLB with a 91 WRC plus against left-handed pitchers. But the Padres, in that same time frame, ranked 8th in MLB with a 115 WRC plus against left-handed pitchers. Therefore, the Tigers decided to use Hurter, a left-hander, against the Red Sox, and Madden, a right-hander, against the Padres. The Red Sox, as you probably guessed it, are one of the best teams in baseball against right-handed pitchers in the past 2 months. So the Tigers avoided a bad matchup and took advantage of a good matchup by using Hurter instead of Madden against the Red Sox. That's why Brant Hurter pitched against the Red Sox as opposed to pitching against the Padres. It makes a ton of sense. As for the opener situation, the Tigers used Beau Brieske, a right-hander, against the Red Sox on Sunday before Hurter took down most of the innings. In Sunday's game, A.J. Hinch got to bring in Brant Hurter to face left-handed reliever Wilyer Abreu after Beau Brieske walked back-to-back batters with 1 out in the second inning. It was a good advantage for the Tigers because Hurter, again, he dominates left-handed hitters. Wilyer Abreu is a left-handed hitter. Red Sox manager Alex Cora didn't want to burn one of his chess pieces in a right-handed hitter off the bench in the second inning. Sure enough, you better believe it, Abreu grounds into a double play on the first pitch, ends the inning. It was a key moment in the game, and it happened because of the opener bulk reliever strategy. It happened because A.J. Hinch was able to insert Brant Hurter for that matchup against the lefty, knowing that Brant Hurter gets ground balls, knowing that Wilyer Abreu is a lefty, and then Brant Hurter dominates lefties. It was a perfect situation that exemplified exactly what the Tigers have been able to do. They go on to win Sunday's game. Now, some teams like the Padres, they're hard to match up against because they're really, really, really good. There's a reason why the Padres are about to be at 80 wins. They can hit righties and they can hit lefties. They're a complete team, but it's a good strategy to win in the margin. And it's an even better strategy to put Hinch in complete control of when he gets to make the first chess move. Talk about the chess match between managers. When the Tigers are doing these opener/bulk reliever games, Hinch always gets to start 1-0. As long as the opener doesn't get completely bombed in the first inning, A.J. Hinch has the advantage every single time. So he starts 1-0 in the chess match. That's a huge advantage for the Tigers.
Not only that, but if you're missing the nuance and just unbelievable, clever, on-the-go strategy of A.J. Hinch, how about yesterday? Instead of going straight to the bulk reliever, he throws Brandon Hanafy after he throws Tyler Holton, gets them to the 5th inning before they have to use Ty Madden, changes it up a little bit. So, A.J. Hinch, just so clever, so smart. I think totally unappreciated by most of the fan base of how good a manager he is. The Tigers aren't anywhere close to where they are without A.J. Hinch. And if you don't understand that, I can't help explain it to you. But, I think people often like to say how negative I am. But the one part of what I've always discussed about the Detroit Tigers during the 4 years of the A.J. Hinch era is A.J. Hinch is a great manager. Not only is he a great manager, he's a smart manager. So if you can't appreciate that, can't help you, we'll hopefully try and educate everybody about how he's doing what he's doing. But this last piece of strategy, optimizing, essentially AAA arms to be, 17-11 in August was one of the greatest pieces of combined strategy. And I think it speaks a lot to what may be the future of the Detroit Tigers, because collaboration between Harris and Hinch to get wins, that's what it's all about, man.
That's an organizational win.
It's a huge organizational win. Something we haven't had a chance to talk about enough times, but like I said, hat tip to those guys. All right, we're going to take our last break. When we come back, we're going to discuss the great Tarik Skubal. We're going to get into discussing the 2024 Best Pitcher in Baseball, Cy Young winner, one Tarik Skubal, whose last start against Boston, I don't know if it was his best of the year, but it was damn close. Gave up a run in the first and then basically allowed 2 base runners for the next 21 outs. Talk to me a little bit about what you saw and the just unbelievable dominance Saturday night. Maybe touch a little bit about how cool it was to be a spectator watching the interaction of the 1984 World Series winners. I want to hear all about it.
It was amazing. I mean, it was awesome. Tarik Skubal put the Tigers on his back. Yes, he gave up the home run early, but the Tigers won 2-1 because of Tarik Skubal. He fired 8 innings of 1-run ball on 4 hits and 0 walks with 8 strikeouts. It was the first time in his entire professional career that he has pitched in the 8th inning, and he was able to complete that inning, and it was awesome. I mean, he finishes the 8th inning with a strikeout. Let's not forget, he threw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball, his 98th and final pitch for a strikeout, and it was the icing on the cake. He raises his arms, pounds his fist into his glove, and he backpedals off the mound as Journey's Don't Stop Believin' blares over the loudspeakers. And there's a crowd of 34,000 plus at Comerica Park showing love to their ace, standing ovation, tons of cheers. Skubal lets out a scream, yells, "Come on," and goes off the field. It was awesome. Like that moment right there, the 99-mile-an-hour fastball, the hand into the glove in excitement, Don't Stop Believin', 34,000, standing ovation, a lead that Tarik Skubal was protecting in that moment in a big game against the Red Sox with playoff hopes on the line. It was everything that you could have ever imagined for the Tigers. That was after back-to-back losses too against the Angels and the Red Sox, and that got them back on track. So it was amazing. And now here we are after 27 starts. Tarik Skubal leads Major League Baseball, not just the American League, but Major League Baseball, in all 3 categories for the pitching Triple Crown with 16 wins, a 2.51 ERA, and 201 strikeouts. He has a chance to do something that very, very few have done. Now, 5 pitchers in a full season have won Triple Crowns in their respective leagues in a full season. Okay, it's Randy Johnson in 2002, Johan Santana in 2006, Jake Peavy in 2007, Clayton Kershaw in 2011, and Justin Verlander in 2011. But only 2 pitchers since 1966 have won a Triple Crown across MLB in a full season. That's both the American League and the National League. Only 2 pitchers since 1966. Dwight Gooden in 1985 and Johan Santana in 2006. Tarik Skubal is on track to become the 3rd pitcher to win MLB's Triple Crown in a full season in a span of nearly 60 years. So yes, Tarik Skubal is going to win the AL Cy Young, but on top of that, he's having one of the best seasons of any pitcher in the last 60 years. Like, that's how good Tarik Skubal has been when you consider what he's done from a statistical standpoint with wins, ERA, and strikeouts. And he's way up there in wins above replacement if you like that metric as well. Tarik Skubal's getting the job done. It's been amazing to watch. Take it to the bank. He's going to win the AL Cy Young in 2024. There's no doubt about it. It's incredible. He's going to become the first Tiger to win the Cy Young since Max Scherzer in 2013. Before him, it was Justin Verlander in 2011. And before that, it was Willie Hernandez in 1984. Speaking of 1984, yes, the Tigers did honor that World Series championship team before Saturday's game against the Red Sox. The pregame celebration was awesome. It creates an amazing atmosphere. And then boom, Tarik Skubal goes out and he shoves career best 8-inning gem. It was awesome. That was like the best day of baseball ever from a spectator standpoint, just to be able to watch and take all that in. But hat tip to Tarik Skubal. He continues to get the job done. Like I said, no doubt in my mind, he's the AL Cy Young, barring an unforeseen, catastrophic collapse in performance down the stretch.
Tarik Skubal is greatness. Not much else to say. Period. End of story. I think, I don't really want to discuss it a lot because it seems like I'm denigrating Tarik Skubal's year, but go look at that 2011 Justin Verlander year and compare it. And you'll have a lot of respect for Justin Verlander because holy smokes. What I also will say, a 25-year-old beat writer was not around in 1984 when the Tigers won the World Series, but a 68-year-old podcaster was. And it was just great to see how much fans loved the 1984 team. And it was also great to see how much the 1984 team was happy to be with each other, up and down. Great to see a lot of the stars of that. Great for the city. Great memories. Just an awesome night. Probably one of the best nights, if not the best night of the home season. All right, we talked about all the success of the pitching staff. So let's talk about the offense, especially since August 11th. This is right in the wheelhouse of you, Ev. So tell us about that.
Yeah, first off, just to hammer home the point of me not being alive when the Tigers won the 1984 World Series. I was minus 14 years old, negative 14 years old, however you want to put it. I wasn't even a thought at that point. So Tigers offense since August 11th, though, when the winning began, 10th in WRC+, 15th in OPS, 13th in batting average, 26th in walk rate, 26th in strikeout rate, 10th in isolated power, 4th in barrel rate, 21st in stolen bases, which isn't good. That's not great. Like, yes, the WRC plus is above average. The OPS is right at average at 15th in the league. That's .735 since August 11th. But we look at the walk rate, the Tigers aren't walking. They're striking out quite a bit. Yes, they're getting into some of their power, thanks Kerry Carpenter. Barrel rate, it's been good. They're hitting the ball hard. They're making the optimal contact when they are making contact, which, is helpful, no doubt. That's one of the main reasons why they've been able to produce offensively. But they're not walking a whole lot. They're striking out quite a bit. They're not stealing bases like crazy. Now, they are going in first to third a ton, which is very helpful. When you have a guy who singles and then you have another single and you can go to first, third, and you have, runners on the corners with one out, like that's huge. But the Tigers haven't been great. So it makes me wonder, are the Tigers a bad offense that's been getting lucky? They're third in batting average on balls in play at 319. 319 batting average on balls in play. The league average since August 11th is 292. So the Tigers should regress to the mean over time, which could be what we've been seeing over the past week or so. Only 24 runs in the last 8 games for an average of 3 runs per game. To me, as good as the pitching has been, and as good as I think the pitching is going to continue to be, I'm not sure, again, if all these bulk relievers are going to stay as dominant as they've been, but I think they're still going to be good, and I think the strategy still works. So as good as that group has been, is the offense going to be able to keep up 3 runs per game? To me, that's not enough to compete in a wild card race.
All right, so let's also add a little context to a few other things. Has the offense been a lot better? Yes. Does productivity and when you get the hits trump how many hits you get? Absolutely. What I'd also like to share with everybody from a context standpoint is, you know what? Riley Green for the month of August hit 205. He slashed 205, 286, 386 for a 91 WRC plus. Cole Keith, although he hit 264, his slash was 264, 330, 364 for a 79 WRC plus in the month of August. He finished the month 0 for 14 and was actually, before he got a hit last night, 0 for 17. So he had 1 home run. He did knock in 11 runs. So it wasn't like Cole Keith and Riley Green were driving the offense like they will for every season going forward starting next year. Okay. There were a lot of people driving the offense. And as I say about playing teams, it's not how much you hit, it's when you hit. And they got a lot of key contributions from weird offensive stalwarts like Jordan McKinstry. Parker Meadows had the month of his life. And Spencer Torkelson came back and not only contributed a lot of offense, but the timeliness of when he contributed offense was very instrumental in winning. And man, I haven't said that in a long time. So, do the Tigers need offensive improvements? Oh, hell yes. Do they need to walk more? Absolutely. Now, they haven't stolen bases, but I think their base running's been really good. So
I agree.
It's, you got to kind of look inside what's going on. But at the same time, the prescription for winning is pretty much what August was. It's not the how, it's the when.
And hat tip to Jordan McKinstry, by the way. Zach McKinstry reclaiming his Jordan nickname for the first time since last May. He's had an amazing stretch. Last 23 games, hitting .373 with a .977 OPS. He's been incredible. He has been incredible. And you know what? He's doing it well, not even walking. He's not walking. He's walked 5 times in 73 trips to the plate, which is not terrible, but also not like he was last May. Maybe he's found something with that swing. We'll see if he's able to keep it going. But, man, Zach McKinstry, you are now Jordan McKinstry again. We'll remove that tag at some point, I'm sure. But for now, he's Zach Jordan McKinstry.
Tiger of the month for August, baby. So, all right, little rapid fire. I want to add one to our list that we didn't have on here. But so let's start with it. Casey Mize returned from the DL. Exactly too inspiring of a start. Seem a lot like what it was before he was injured. You got any thoughts on that?
If he wants a rotation spot in 2025, he's got to pick it up and finish strong. That's how I feel about it. He can eat innings for sure, but he's just not getting it done. Too many hits. You know, he's got the random walk or two gets mixed in there. Not a lot of strikeouts, doesn't miss bats. The velo is now down. Hopefully that allows him, though, to get into more of his slider. He really worked on that during his 4-game rehab assignment coming back from the left hamstring strain. Maybe the slider is able to, be a pitch for him, but it's maybe come at the cost of losing some velo on the fastball. Like I said, if he wants to be a part of the plan for 2025 and in that rotation and not a potential bullpen piece, he's got to pick it up, and the time is now.
All right. We talk a lot about what Chris Fetter, Robin Lund, Juan Nieves, and the analytics department do for pitchers here. We're going on 5 years of Casey Mize, all with these guys, and it just is really disappointing. Every time I am hopeful that Casey Mize will tweak something and get some pitch to be a swing and miss pitch, it just never shows up. I mean, he may have the worst split I've ever seen. It's just exhausting. So, yeah, kind of disappointed in that. All right, we got Wenceel Perez on the cusp of coming back this season. Rehab started at Toledo. Share with us a little bit about Wenceel Perez and maybe Reese Olson before we get out of here.
Yeah, Wenceel Perez just started his rehab assignment with AAA Toledo, so he's hoping to come back soon. His right-handed swing is behind the left-handed swing in the recovery process. He is swinging from both sides, but left-handed swing is ahead of the right-handed swing, so he's using that one right now. We'll see how long it takes for the right-handed swing to catch up to the left-handed swing. But either way, the Tigers sent him out on the rehab assignment. They want to get him going. They think they have a chance to get him back some point soon here. So he should be back for hopefully a good 3 weeks of September. That sure would be nice. So he is on the mend and on the way. We'll see how the Tigers use him moving forward. We'll also see how he impacts roster plans, something to maybe look into next week as we get closer to his return. As for Reese Olson coming back from a right shoulder strain, he threw live batting practice against Wenceel Perez. And so Wenceel Perez has gone out and started his rehab assignment. Reese Olson, the next time that he steps on the mound, it seems like it is going to be in a rehab start for AAA Toledo. How many starts does he need before returning? Only time will tell. We'll see about that. Hopefully it's only 2 or 3. He can come back for maybe 2 starts in the big leagues before the end of the regular season. That sure would be nice. And with the playoff push happening right now, you never know. Reese Olson could be a big piece for the Tigers in October, but only if they're able to get there.
Excited to see both of them. I think we forget what an integral part in winning Wenceel Perez was. Yeah, he had a few slumps during 2024, but at the same time, did a lot of good things to help them win at crucial times. And look, Reese Olson, one of the best pitchers the Tigers have. So whether he is the old Reese Olson or whether they maybe limit him to 50, 60 pitches, even 50, 60 pitches of Reese Olson at this point in time is a good thing. All right, time to get out of here, Ev. I want to remind everybody to rate, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, pretty much anywhere. You can always find us also, believe it or not, on YouTube. If you Google Days of Roar on YouTube, the entire podcast will come up. You can always find us embedded in every Evan Petzold article at freep.com. And I know you guys all like to read the Freep, so they got great digital subscription prices these days. I would encourage you to go there and maybe sign up for $1 for 6 months. I'd also like to thank The Free Press editor, Nicole Avery Nichols. Our producer, the great one, the magic man, Robin Chan, who's got a lot of work to do on this podcast. Saves us every damn week. Love to my grandson, who I got to spend the day with yesterday, Braden Michael Gorash. I want to give a shout out to my son, Jordan Gorash, who scored us 2 tickets to see Oasis in Wembley Stadium in 2025. Father and son taking a bucket list trip. How awesome is that? Shout out, as always, to the beautiful Savannah Petzold. Until next week, peace!